I should have known something was wrong when my mother wore her pearls to the rehearsal dinner. She only wore those pearls when she wanted to feel important, when she wanted to make a statement. They sat against her navy dress like tiny teeth. Catching the candlelight at Giovanni's, the Italian restaurant Marcus and I had chosen because it was halfway between both families. Neutral ground. A place where nothing could go to wrong. I was 32 years old, getting married in 3 days, and I still thought neutral ground mattered. The table was long, stretching down the private dining room with white linens and too many wine glasses per person. Marcus's parents, Helen and Frank, sat to my right, warm, present, the kind of people who ask questions and actually listen to the answers. My parents sat across from them. My father looked tired, the way he always did lately, his eyes distant even when he smiled. And my mother sat beside him, straight-backed, her fingers drumming lightly on the stem of her wine glass. My sister Vanessa was late. She was always late. 28 years old and still operating on the assumption that the world would wait for her. And the worst part was it usually did, especially in our family. She texted, my mother said, glancing at her phone. Traffic. There was never traffic on a Thursday at 6:30 in suburban Connecticut, but I nodded anyway. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. He knew. 3 years together, and he'd learned to read the tightness in my jaw, the way I held my shoulders when my family was involved. She'll be here soon, I said, because that's what you say. That's what keeps the peace. Helen leaned toward me, her voice low and kind. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Big week. Good, I said, and I meant it. Ready. And I was. Marcus and I had been living together for 2 years in a small apartment in Stamford. We'd built something real: Sunday farmers market trips, splitting the grocery bill, arguments about whose turn it was to clean the bathroom that ended in laughter more often than anger. He was a civil engineer with steady hands and a steadier heart. The kind of man who fixed things instead of walking away from them. His parents had given us a gift 6 months earlier, a cabin in the Berkshires. Small, 2 bedrooms right on a lake. They'd bought it years ago as an investment and decided we should have it. For your future, Frank had said. For your family. The paperwork had my name on it. Lucy Ashford, soon to be Lucy Chan. It was mine. When Vanessa finally arrived 20 minutes later, she brought the kind of energy that bent a room toward her breathless apologies. Kisses on cheeks, a silk scarf trailing behind her like a cape. She worked in PR for a lifestyle brand in Manhattan. The kind of job that sounded impressive at parties but mostly involved Instagram stories and activations. She slid into the chair beside my mother, and I watched my mom's face soften in a way it never quite did for me. Sorry, Vanessa said, reaching for the wine. Absolute nightmare getting out of the city. Marcus stood to greet her properly, because that's who he was. Good to see you, Vanessa. You too. She smiled at him, then at me. Lucy, you look gorgeous. Is that new? It wasn't. I'd had the dress for 2 years. But I smiled back because fighting with Vanessa was like fighting with smoke. There was nothing solid to grab onto. We ordered. Appetizers arrived. Conversation flowed the way it does at these things, carefully, politely, everyone performing the role of functional family. Helen asked Vanessa about her work. My father asked Marcus about a project he was managing. I felt myself relax slightly, the wine softening the edges. Then came dessert, tiramisu and panna cotta and espresso in tiny cups. My mother cleared her throat, and I felt it before she even spoke, that particular quality of attention she commanded. The way she could make a room go quiet just by deciding it should. I want to say something, she announced. Marcus's hand found mine again. We're so thrilled about this wedding, my mother continued, looking around the table with a smile I'd seen 1,000 times. Gracious, performative, the one she used at church fundraisers. And Helen, Frank, you've been so generous. So welcoming. Helen smiled warmly. It's easy when you're welcoming Lucy into the family. Something flickered across my mother's face. Too quick to name. That cabin you gave them, she said, and my stomach dropped. It's such a beautiful gift. Really, just beautiful. We're excited for them to use it, Frank said. Make memories there. My mother nodded. her pearls shifting. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. No, Gerald, and I have been thinking, she continued, glancing at my father, who looked surprised to be included in this, about fairness, about both our daughters. Vanessa was watching her now, something alert in her expression. And we think, my mother said, her voice light, almost casual, that it makes sense to pass the cabin over to Vanessa. The words landed like a stone in still water. I stared at her. What? It's just practical, honey. She sipped her wine. Vanessa's still single, still figuring out her life. You and Marcus, you're settled. You have each other. You don't need a whole extra property. The table had gone completely silent. That cabin was given to Lucy, Helen said quietly, but there was steel underneath. By us, to Lucy. Oh, I know, my mother said, waving her hand. And it was so generous. But family is family. We share. That's what we do. I couldn't breathe, couldn't find words. Marcus was rigid beside me, and I could feel his anger, but I couldn't reach for it. Couldn't use it, because I was drowning in something older and deeper. Mom, I finally said, my voice strange in my own ears. You can't just, that's not yours to give away. Don't be dramatic, Lucy. Her tone shifted, sharpening. This is about being fair to your sister. She needs this more than you do right now. I never said I needed it, Vanessa said softly, but she didn't say she didn't want it either. Frank stood up. Diane, this isn't appropriate, is it? My mother's eyes went hard. Is it inappropriate to want both my daughters taken care of? To not want everything handed to Lucy while Vanessa gets nothing? And there it was, the truth underneath. Not about the cabin at all, everything handed to Lucy. I thought of every piano lesson she'd pulled Vanessa out of early, because she was tired, every school play where she'd left halfway through my scenes to take a work call, every birthday where Vanessa's parties had 50 people and mine had 12. Every time I'd been told I was fine, capable, didn't need as much attention. Lucy's always been fine, my mother continued, looking at Helen like this was reasonable, like she was the rational one. She doesn't need as much support. Vanessa's more sensitive, more vulnerable. Vanessa was staring at her plate now. We're leaving, Helen said, standing. Frank was already gathering their things. You're overreacting, my mother said. We're not. Helen's voice was calm, but her face was pale. You just tried to give away our gift at our son's rehearsal dinner because you don't think your own daughter deserves to have something of her own. That's not it, is. Helen looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Pity. Lucy, we're staying at the Marriott on Route 7, room 304. If you need anything. They left. The room felt cavernous in their absence. Well, my mother said after a moment. That was unnecessary. I stood up. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. Lucy, my mother started. Don't. Marcus stood with me. We're going too. You're being childish, she said. No, my voice came out steady, clearer than I expected. I'm being done. We walked out past the tables of other diners, past the hostess stand, into the parking lot where the April air was cold and sharp. Marcus held me while I shook, not crying yet, just shaking like something inside me had come loose. I'm sorry, he whispered. It's not your fault. I know. I'm still sorry. We drove to the Marriott in silence. Helen and Frank were in the lobby, clearly not done processing what had happened. Helen hugged me immediately, and that's when I finally cried, not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. She's always been like this, I heard myself say. Always. I just kept thinking if I was good enough, accomplished enough, if I didn't need anything, maybe she'd. Oh, honey. Helen pulled back to look at me. This isn't about you. You know that, right? This is about her. But it didn't feel like it was about her. It felt like it had always been about me not being Vanessa. We stayed in that lobby for 2 hours. Frank ordered coffee. Marcus sat close enough that our shoulders touched. And slowly, something shifted in me, not healing, not yet, but something colder, clearer. The wedding's in 3 days. I said finally. Do you want to postpone? Marcus asked carefully. I thought about it. Thought about my mother and her pearls, the way she'd smiled when she'd said it, the way she'd known exactly what she was doing. No, I said. We're getting married. But I need to do something first. I called my father at 7 the next morning. He answered on the third ring, his voice rough with sleep. Lucy, I need you to tell me the truth, I said. I was sitting in Marcus's car in the parking lot of our apartment, watching the sun come up over the grocery store across the street. Did you know she was going to do that? Silence, Dad. No, he said finally. I didn't know. Not specifically. But I knew she'd been talking about Vanessa needing help. About the cabin. I should have. He stopped. I should have said something. Why didn't you? Another pause. Longer this time. Because I'm tired, Lucy. I'm 64 years old and I've spent 40 years trying to manage your mother's feelings. And I'm tired. I'd never heard him talk like that. Never heard him admit that's what he'd been doing. She's getting worse, he continued quietly. The way she fixates on Vanessa, the way she talks about you like you're some sort of robot that doesn't need anything. I've tried to balance it. I thought I was balancing it. You weren't. I know. His voice cracked. I know that now. We sat with that for a moment. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know yet, I said. But I'm done pretending this is normal. I called Vanessa next. She didn't answer. I texted. We need to talk. Today. She responded an hour later. I didn't ask for the cabin. But she didn't say no. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then, meet me at the coffee place on Elm. 11 a.m. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner with a latte she wasn't drinking. She looked younger than 28, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup. For a second, I saw the kid sister who used to follow me around, who'd wanted to do everything I did. I'm sorry, she said before I even sat down. I pulled out the chair. For what specifically? For not saying no. For letting her. She stopped, picking at her cup sleeve. I don't know. For being the favorite, I guess. You can't apologize for that, I said. You didn't choose it, didn't I, though? She looked up, and her eyes were red. I could have pushed back more, could have told her to stop. But it felt good, you know? Being the one she worried about. Being the one she protected. Protected from what? I don't know. Life, maybe? Failure? She laughed, but it was hollow. Turns out being protected just means being treated like you can't handle anything. We sat there. 2 sisters who'd spent decades on different sides of the same dysfunction. Finally seeing it from the same angle. Do you actually want the cabin? I asked. No. She said immediately. God, no. I don't even like the outdoors, despite everything. I almost smiled. I think, Vanessa said slowly, that Mom needs there to be a problem. Needs me to need saving. And she needs you to be the one who doesn't need anything so she can justify not giving it to you. That's fucked up. Yeah. She met my eyes. It really is. I'm not going to keep doing this, I said. After the wedding, I'm done. Boundaries. Real ones. She nodded. I think I need to do that too. She's going to lose her mind. Probably. Vanessa picked up her latte. Finally took a sip. But maybe that's not our problem anymore. The wedding happened on Saturday. My mother tried to call 6 times on Friday. I didn't answer. She showed up at the venue during setup, and Marcus's cousin, who was built like a linebacker, very politely escorted her out when she wouldn't leave. She sent a text at midnight. You're really going to do this? Exclude your own mother? I blocked her number. My father walked me down the aisle. Before we started, he squeezed my hand and whispered, I'm proud of you. I should have said that more. It was enough. The ceremony was small, perfect. Exactly what we'd wanted. Helen cried. Frank made a toast about building strong foundations. Vanessa came alone and hugged me for a long time before she left early, not running away. Just knowing she didn't need to stay to prove anything. My mother wasn't there to see me marry the man I loved, and the absence didn't hurt the way I thought it would. 3 weeks later, I got a letter from my parents' attorney. My mother was contesting the cabin, claiming it had been a family gift that I was withholding from my sister. It was baseless. The deed was in my name, given by Marcus's parents, but it was also revealing. She'd rather burn everything down than admit she'd been wrong. I filed a restraining order, not because I was afraid of her physically, but because I needed a legal line she couldn't cross. My father called when he got the papers. "I'm leaving her," he said. I almost dropped the phone. "What?" "I'm leaving your mother." I should have done it years ago. He sounded lighter than I'd heard him in decades. "I'm 64 years old, Lucy. I don't want to spend whatever time I have left managing someone else's cruelty." "Dad, you were right about all of it. And I'm sorry I didn't protect you better." We talked for 2 hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in my adult life. He told me about the early years with my mother, before Vanessa was born, when she'd been different. How it had shifted gradually, her need for control, her obsession with image. The way she'd decided I was strong enough not to need her and Vanessa was fragile enough to require everything. "She made you the scapegoat," he said. Made Vanessa the golden child. Classic narcissistic parent dynamic. I kept thinking I could fix it from the inside, but you can't fix someone who doesn't think they're broken. The divorce took 8 months. My mother fought every single thing: the house, the retirement accounts, the division of 40 years of marriage. She tried to turn Vanessa against him. It didn't work. Vanessa had started therapy, was working through her own damage. My father moved into a small condo near the water, got a dog, started painting again, something he'd given up decades ago. I saw him every other Sunday. We never talked about inviting my mother. Marcus and I spent our first anniversary at the cabin. We repainted the bedroom pale blue, installed new windows, planted herbs in boxes on the deck. Helen and Frank visited in July, and we all went kayaking on the lake. It was ours. Truly ours. One evening, as the sun set over the water and Marcus was grilling fish, Helen sat beside me on the deck. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Really?" I thought about it. Thought about the therapy sessions where I'd cried about never being enough. Thought about the rage that still sometimes woke me up at 3 a.m. Thought about Vanessa's texts, less frequent now, but warmer, more honest. Thought about my father's paintings, which were actually good, bright abstracts that looked like freedom. "I'm okay," I said. "Some days are harder than others, but I'm okay." "You know," Helen said carefully, "you didn't do anything wrong at that dinner or ever." "I know. And I did. Finally. But knowing it and feeling it are different things." "They are." She squeezed my hand. "But you'll get there." That night, lying in bed with Marcus's arm around me and the sound of the lake outside, I thought about my mother and her pearls. Wondered if she ever thought about that dinner, about what she'd lost when she decided to perform generosity by giving away something that wasn't hers. Probably not. People like her didn't work that way. The narrative in her head would be different. She was the victim, misunderstood, punished for caring too much. And maybe that was the final lesson. I couldn't control her story. Couldn't make her see what she'd done. Couldn't wait for an apology that would never come because she genuinely believed she'd done nothing wrong. I could only control my own story, my own boundaries, my own life. The cabin was quiet around us, solid and real. Mine because it had been given to me with love by people who saw me clearly. Mine because I'd fought to keep it when someone tried to take it away. Marcus stirred beside me. "You okay?" he murmured, half asleep. "Yeah," I whispered. "I'm good." And in that moment, in that space we'd built together, I actually was. The revenge wasn't dramatic, wasn't a grand confrontation or a perfectly delivered speech. It was quieter than that, more permanent. It was building a life she couldn't touch. It was choosing people who chose me back. It was learning that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And somewhere between that terrible dinner and this peaceful night, I'd found it. Not easily, not perfectly, but I'd found the ability to let her go. My mother gave away something that wasn't hers. And in doing so, she gave me the greatest gift she'd ever given me: clarity, the knowledge that I didn't need her approval to deserve good things, the courage to walk away from people who treated my heart like collateral damage, the understanding that family is what you build, not just what you're born into. So no, the cabin didn't go to Vanessa. It stayed mine. And my mother wasn't at my wedding. And my father found his way out. And Vanessa started doing her own work, and I learned that sometimes the best revenge is refusing to let someone's cruelty define your story. I learned that peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of boundaries. I learned that you can grieve the mother you needed while accepting the mother you had. And I learned that home isn't a place someone can give you or take away. Home is what you build with people who see you, hold you, choose you every single day, without conditions, without pearls.